There's nothing to worry about. The most powerful exorcists among us are working on it right now. And they'll make sure that we touch down on the ground safely.
Exorcists? Like the ones with amazing powers who healed people during the epidemic? That's right. So please, have faith in us.
So, how the simple things could promote just deeper understandings. The mosquitoes was flying around my leg, but just one that flew around my leg. And I was swinging at him, and he kind of kept trying for a little second, and I was just swinging in the general area for a nice little second. And in my head, I was like, just what came out was like, hey, y'all got to work for this one, And then what also came up was, and I had to work, in essence, for the energy. Like, in order to have the energy to even swing my hand, I had to do some form of work, whether it be, exercise to stay in shape, or some form of energy work or meditation, or, what I'm saying, but something to keep my, my body healthy. But realizing like, all right, across the board, everything doing some form of activity, if you don't want to use the word how about I say work or work, because work is kind of connected to the war energy of Mars. But activity is more so like the connection to Mars, but not so much from a perspective of it being a war or up against something. You feel me? But it takes some form of activity in order to be able to consume something to nourish yourself. Like even for a breatharian, it takes some form of activity or work, because that discipline in order to become a breatharian, that takes quote unquote work, or, with some form of activity, constant activity of being disciplined to sit there and stretch, to be able to sit in the lotus position for a long time and do cryo yoga breathing techniques, you know what I'm saying, like that. You they obviously doing those activities to promote, being a breatharian, because otherwise they would have been a breatharian straight out the womb. That's not to say whether I'm not politicking on whether it's right or wrong, just, but nah, so even a breatharian has to do some form of activity to consume, because again, that's a breatharian nourishment is breathing. I try to say nourishment is like, the prana through the air, but it's through the avenue of just breathing air. You feel me? But it still took some form of, you know, activity or quote unquote work. And reason why I'm going to that extreme, because a breatharian, it's like, in essence, it's like, oh, all they eat is the air, you know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't like multiple things they got to pick from or chase down or none of that. But at the same time, there's still some form of, all that energy that they don't put into that is put into staying disciplined in order to, keep refining their abilities with being a breatharian. And in most cases, well, I ain't gonna say most cases, but I'm pretty sure in a lot of cases, you know, pushing the limit and seeing, you know, how far they could get with being a breatharian. But yeah, that extreme. Let's say a non super spiritual older man, he don't really do nothing except work the bare minimum, if that, you know what I'm saying, as far as like having a quote unquote job to bring in funds. Barely do that. But with his wife and his or spouse wife, they done had sex multiple times enough to have, like, let's just say 10 children. Those 10 children grow up and get into a space where they could take care of of their father, and mother, of course, but they could take care of their father and mother, especially with their father. In this case, connecting it with the father. But, the father could, consume and nourish himself based off of the help he get from his children. And technically, again, he did put in some type of activity or work, aka the sexual intercourse or sexual experience, in order to have those children. You know what I'm saying? And of course, whatever else comes with, fathering 10 children. But just in a basic sense of him putting in the work from having to do the activity, because that's what, in essence, created the children, was that activity. You know what I'm saying? And that activity, or aka putting in work, aka in this case the sexual experience, he put in that work, that sexual intercourse, that activity, and created other beings that could eventually take care of him and his wife in the long run and down the line as they grow up. But some form of activity, you know and back to the analogy I started off with, we're seeing it with the flies. I'm more so not the analogy, but how it came to me. With the mosquitoes, excuse me. It's like the mosquitoes gotta fly around and try to, what I'm saying, key in on a spot on you that you ain't gonna slap, you know what I'm saying? Like, aka some form of activity or work to, consume they nourishment, you know. And that's why the breatharian is also a good example, because even somebody who would consider to be somebody who just sits around and do nothing all day, like, because in most cases, like those yogis who meditate almost most of the day, I'm pretty sure they don't eat much of anything. You know what I'm saying? But again, even somebody who quote unquote sits around all day, you know, them sitting around and meditating like that took some form of activity or practice, you know what I'm saying? And not insanity, because practice and insanity technically has the same definition, you know, doing the same thing, expecting different results, you know, that's practice. Because you're doing the same thing where you're shooting the same jump shot, expecting different results, aka to get better. You're expecting to change the bad jump shot into a better jump shot. So you're doing the, same thing, you know what I'm saying, expecting different results, and that's practice. But then also, in certain ways, uh, quote unquote insanity. I just basically, I feel like the expression not necessarily insanity, but like you just not getting it. Like you don't get it, you know what I'm saying, if you do the same thing over and over expecting different results, That's more so what the expression means, and not necessarily like hey, you're clinically insane if you do this, you know what I'm saying? But it's like you're doing the same thing, expecting, different results, you know what I'm saying? But again, and look at how unique that is and paradoxical, where depending on where you place the same sentence, same words, could be wrong and right, de- depending on the situation, you know, like, and how that could, in essence, be, confusing. Again, the English, the angelish, the angel, angelish, anglish language. And not to say that the English language is bad and none of that. Look, we're just getting our understanding. But again, some form of activity in order to consume, you know. But just wanted to share that.